We are grading your AFL Team's 2024 season by using a tier list. We have split this into 9 categories, as you can see. We've got premiers, we've got pretty good, solid, average, season ended badly, rather forget, failed, and terrible. So we're just going to go in alphabetical order, and we're just going to grade where we think each team goes on this tier list. So we'll start with the Adelaide Crows. You can put them in a few places here, the Crows. I think I'm going to put them in failed at this moment, and I think it's because I think a lot of people expect them to make finals, but they ended up finishing 4th to bottom, which is a very disappointing season. People might say potentially terrible or rather forget, but I'm just going to put them in failed for now. For the Brisbane Lions, I think it's pretty easy to know where they will be. They are the premiers. They had an amazing end to the season. Obviously, they will be up at that, well, you call it S tier, but we're called it premier, so they'll be up there. Carlton, now, this is interesting because they did make finals. They just lost to Brisbane, who ended up being the premiers. I think they were okay. Like, they had some good wins, had some bad losses as well. I'm going to put them in the middle, so I think average. Average is basically the middle, and I think that's where they're at. You know, they made the finals, obviously a bit disappointing in the elimination final, but average seems about right. Collingwood, I got to put it in failed. Have to. They were the premiers last year, and the premiership hangover clearly got to them and didn't even make finals, so you could probably potentially put rather forget as well, but I'm putting failed worse than rather forget. I think we'll put them there. Essendon, now, there is a reason why I put season ended badly, because there are a couple of teams on here that probably do fall into that category, and Essendon is one of them. You know, obviously they were brilliant in the first half of the season. They were, I think, top 2 at one point, and then they just capitulated really in the end and just ended badly. So I think it's a perfect spot for them where they'll win a great position to make finals. Even people were thinking they could win a final. Unfortunately, they didn't actually make one. So your season ended badly is the perfect one. Fremantle Dockers, here's another team that I think could fit in that same category. The season ended badly. Like, they were in a great position. I think with about 4 or 5 rounds to go, they were out in the top 4, looking like they were ready to go, and then they just crumbled down and actually missed out. Somehow they missed out on finals. They actually had a chance to beat Port Adelaide in the last round, actually still make finals, but they still couldn't do that at home. So I think it's the best way to put it. Season ended badly. Geelong, I'm going to put them in pretty good. They were actually very good. I think a lot of people, including me, believe that Geelong didn't have the capability of making finals, but they were very good to finish top 4 and were fantastic against Port Adelaide in the qualifying final and really pushed Brisbane. They could have actually won that game and made the grand finals. I think from what the expectation was of Geelong to where they finished in the top 4, I think they had a pretty good season, so I'm happy with that. Gold Coast Suns, this is an interesting one because I put them around the rather forget or the failed category as well. I'm leaning towards, it's very tricky this one, because you know, you could put them in the rather forget, or you could put them fail because Damien Hardwick, you know, there was some expectation of them to make finals. I'm going to go rather forget, only because it was Damien Hardwick's first season, and they did have some good moments, but obviously a season they'd rather forget as well. So I'm going to just put that in that category. Very close to being failed. Like, let me know what you think about this as well. You know, easily can change them out, but Gold Coast go rather forget. Now the Giants. This is interesting because you could actually make a case for season ended badly because they were knocked out in straight sets. But I am going to put them in solid. The only reason why I say that, they did finish top 4. They looked like they were up there to actually win the flag at one point. And really, they could have easily beaten Sydney. They could have easily beaten Brisbane in the finals. And we wouldn't even be talking about season ended badly. Or I reckon you go solid. Now, obviously, I probably wouldn't put them in pretty good, just solid. And they weren't exactly in the middle. But let me know what you think. You could easily put them in the season ended badly. But I'm going to put them in solid, given their whole season, not judging on their last game they played. Hawthorn, I think this is pretty good. No one expected them to make finals, even get a finals win, and nearly make a prelim too. 0-5 to start the season. They were looking like they were going to go into the terrible category, but they just kept winning and winning and winning to a point that they actually made finals. And it was very impressive the way they played, the young side, and the way the dare and hot ball, they call it, they were fantastic. They win against the Bulldogs was quite special in the finals. Pushed Port Adelaide in the end, and if Sicily kicked his goal, who knows? Make a prelim, they might have potentially have gone all the way, who knows? But I'll go pretty good. Melbourne, now I'm going to put this in the rather forget for a couple of reasons. Not just because of the season itself. Obviously, they expected to make finals and didn't quite make that. I think everything else around it, like the Christian Petrarca incident, I think all of that and the way that's ended, that's a rather forget as well. Just recently about Clayton Oliver, who is most likely going to stay at Melbourne, but him looking at Geelong, that's probably one thing. And then you got like Neil Bullen is going to go to the Crows. Cozzy Pickett could potentially leave. So it's things like that is the reason why I would rather forget Melbourne. Not just on field, but off field as well. I think they just rather forget both and move on to 2025. North Melbourne, you're going to put them in terrible. I don't think they won until round 11 or round 12. I think it was their first win. And they had a couple of good periods where they could have won games. Not too many improvements just yet, but who knows from 2025? They've got a very young list and they've got a lot of top-end talent. So who knows what Alistair Clarkson could do to North Melbourne. We'll put them in terrible for now. Obviously, they did finish second to bottom, so they're going to have to be put in the terrible section. Port Adelaide, I'm going to put them in solid. They were quite solid for most of the season. Obviously, had a couple of embarrassing losses. Brisbane during the season, and then Geelong in the qualifying final, and Sydney were against them. They were a bit disappointing in the prelim. All year, you go by what they've done all year. They were very good. They did finish top 4. They did get a finals win, so definitely an improvement from 2023. I'll put them in the solid, probably not in that pretty good category. I wouldn't put them with the Geelong and the Hawthorn with their expectations of what it was. I think I'm happy to put them in that solid category. Richmond, I don't think there's anything else but terrible. They finished bottom, they're losing players. So on and off the field, it's probably been terrible. Like, it's been hard for Adam Uze, the new coach of this year. It hasn't been easy for him. Like, he's obviously trying to get the feel of the new team. But like players like Bolton, Rioli, and Baker and Graham all going to be leaving probably in this trade period, and finishing bottom, finishing wooden spoons, a bit disappointing. But at the end of the day, they did have a nice little dynasty not too long ago. So, eventually what goes up must come down. Being the bottom side, I think terrible is probably a fair assessment of it. Now, Sydney, I'm going to go pretty good. Obviously, destroying the grand final didn't really help, losing by 10 goals. But the whole season, they were the best team all year. They were brilliant all the way through. Obviously, had that little bit of a lull period where they lost some games. But they still found a way to finish on top at the end of the season. They did have that great win against the Giants, good win against Port Adelaide to get in the grand final. So I think a team that makes the grand final and been the best team all year up until the grand final, I think you got to put them in the pretty good category. So I'm happy to put that for the Swans. Say Kilda. Now, probably similar to Gold Coast, you could put them in rather forget or failed. I'm going to put them in the failed. And the only reason why I'm saying that is they did make finals last year, and there were people that are thinking they could stay in that finals run or even go the next level and jump into the top 4. I think I saw a couple of predictions that had that, but they just fell. They fell badly, actually, probably for the first half of the season. Second half, they had some good performances, obviously some wins against Sydney and Carlton last round, just to name a couple. They were very good, and actually Geelong as well, so they had some good wins at the end, but I think you're still going to go failed for their season of what they were expected to do. West Coast, now this one's another, I'm not terrible, could be the way to put them, but I'm actually thinking, this is actually a very tricky one, because you could make a case for failed and terrible. It's out of those two. Like, they did have some good moments, like a couple of Australians with Jerry McGovern and Jake Waterman making it, and Harley Reid looking like a really good player for the Eagles too. They've got some promise, and obviously now Andrew McWalter will be the new coach for 2025, but it's not about that, it's about the 2024 season. I feel like this could be a little bit harsh on the Eagles, but I am going to put them in terrible still. They did have games where they were quite shocking, to be honest. Like, you'd probably put them in that category of North Melbourne and Richmond. You would say these other 3 teams that were probably the worst teams by far. No offense to those 3 clubs, but yeah, we'll put West Coast at terrible. And last but not least, the Western Bulldogs. They did make finals, but did lose to the Hawks. You'd probably be similar to Carlton. They did have some good wins and some bad results as well. I'm going to put them in the middle, so I'll put them around the average mark as well. Like, they did have some good wins on the board, as I said, and players like Treloar and Bontempelli were fantastic again, but just got well beaten by Hawthorn in the elimination final. I think you put them in the middle. I think that's where they'd be. There you have it. This is the tier list. Now, let me know what you think of this tier list. Do you agree, or is there some changes that we could do? There probably could be some there that you could easily move around, but it's not an easy list to really do. Let me know if you want me to do any more tier list of anything AFL related. Let me know, and we'll make it a little series. If you did enjoy this content, leave a like and subscribe if you're new here for more of AFL content. There's going to be more variety of content coming to this channel, so stay tuned for that. But until then, bye for now.